Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
Hello, good evening. My name is LaKeesha Hines, and you are watching SOS, where we are saving our sex lives one bedroom at a time. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I want to say thank you for joining. Thank you for those of you who are already here, who get in here early. I appreciate that. Drop your name, where you're streaming from. Because some of you I'm not able to see because we are streaming on multiple platforms. So drop your name and where you're streaming from. I'd love to see who you are and where you are actually signing in from. Hey, Vashawn. Hello, Miss Jewel. How are you, beautiful? So I'm going to be completely honest with you all. There was a little bit of trickery used for this show intentionally, because I believe, had you seen the title, you may not have tuned in. So I just want you to just stick with me once I tell you exactly what we're talking about tonight. Don't log off, don't run, hear me out. Because I promise you, it will be worth it. I promise. So just hang in there. You will survive. You will make it. Those of you who have not downloaded the Couples Academy app, please make sure you do that so that you can get all things Couples Academy, so you're not missing out on any of our shows. You'll get reminders, and actually, if you miss the show live, the app will actually say, hey, did you miss the show? Click here and you can watch the show. So download the app. I promise you, it will change your entire life. Hi, CJ. Hello, Mr. Smith. Team Smith in the house. Hello. All right. So, I say this every week. I'm excited. I'm so excited, but I really, really am, because I truly enjoy talking about what we're always talking about. And I really want to, get you guys in a place where you are having a healthy sex life. And if you're already having a healthy sex life, then I want you to have an amazing sex life, right? Even better than what's going on. None of us have arrived, right? So there's always room for growth and improvement and advancement and all of those things. So you are here because you're either having issues that you want to try to find some solutions for, or you're doing all right and you want to do great, or you're doing great and you want to be astronomically doing well. Okay. So, have you guys ever heard of detoxes? Have you heard of a detox before? I actually researched doing a detox because I think I just kind of had a season in life where I just was feeling like I wasn't eating the best. I wasn't treating my body the best. I wasn't taking care of my health the way I needed to. And I kind of wanted to give my body like a reboot. Like I wanted to do a restart. I wanted to have a fresh start. So I started researching detoxes, and there's so many out there. There's so many different ways that you can do it. You hear about cleanses, you hear about vitamins that you can take, drinks that you can drink. There's all these different things that you can do to detox. And basically, what you're trying to do is rid your body of any toxins that may be there or any unhealthy substances. And so, you know, for those of you who made like a little Mary Jane, and you might need to be applying for a new job, you may need to go through a detox so you can get all that out your system. On a serious note, people who are dealing with substance abuse, alcohol, addiction, or any type of issue or challenge that they may be facing with alcohol or substances, they may have to go through a detox because there's an addiction there and you have to get it out of your system and then go through a process where you put steps in place so that you don't get back to that unhealthy place, right? So that's the detox, okay? And it's really just it's a period of time which you're going to abstain from whatever the unhealthy thing is while you're trying to rid your body of whatever the toxin is or whatever the unhealthy substance is. Also, in looking at detoxing, guess what? Fasting came up. So I know that there are many of you devout Christians here, many of you who are believers, who are Jesus followers, and or believe in a higher power, believe in God. Maybe you have religious practice that involves fasting. Now, according to the Bible, it is when you voluntarily reduce or eliminate your intake of food or maybe drink for a specific time and purpose. Is for consecration. And it's so that you can get clarity, so that you can hear from God. You're praying during that time. And it's just something that you decide to do because you really want to get yourself in a very sacred place and you want to have a deeper spiritual connection. You want to rid your body of anything that might be a distraction or that might cloud your ability to hear from God. And so, what we're talking about tonight are sex detoxics. I know, LaKeesha, you're supposed to be helping us to have a healthy sex life. You're supposed to be getting us more sex, LaKeesha. How are we gonna get more sex if you telling us to detox and fast from the sex? How are we supposed to do that, LaKeesha? Isn't that counterproductive? I already know. I hear you. I told you, don't quit on me. Don't log off. Don't go nowhere. It's with a purpose, okay? Everything with a purpose. There is always a method behind the LaKeesha madness, okay? Now, the sex detox, same thing like a regular detox or like a fast. What you're doing is you are designating a time where you're going to refrain or abstain from having sex. It may not be specifically sex as a whole. Like, we'll talk about that. I'll break it down. But I do want to say that just because you go on a sex detox, it does not mean that you abstain from affection, from touch, from words of affirmation, or any other of the crucial parts of a loving relationship that convey tenderness and love and attraction. Okay, so you're still having intimacy with one another. It just may be that you remove intercourse and maybe some other things. All right, but this has to be a consensual plan between two people, and the ultimate goal is to strengthen the intimacy between the two parties. I know this to be true. Sometimes the expectation of regular sex with your spouse can actually have the opposite effect. It can affect your level of desire because if it's coming from a place of obligatory maintenance more than passionate connection, then it can ultimately reduce your desire for one another and to have sex with your spouse. It's really habitual sex, right? And that then becomes the norm. And so that's not what we want. We don't want habitual sex or duty sex, which Hassani has talked about multiple times, and it's in he and Danielle's book, The Audacity of Marriage. And duty sex, actually, at times there's a place for it, but you don't want that to become the norm. So it's not about this sex detox, it's not about less sex for the sake of avoidance, but it's actually about building sexual tension. Abstaining from having sex is about rekindling the curiosity between you and your spouse, because it's in those moments of deprivation that we actually discover how to be more intentional about sexual moments so that they feel like a source of power and connection. Now, I already know what I'm about to say, fellas. I know you're probably not going to like this. Okay. I know. And it's fine. I tell you all the time, say what you want to say what you need to say, right? But there was a study that was done that actually says that when it comes to you, my brothers, abstaining from ejaculation for a period of time, I ain't say forever, I said for a period of time, can actually raise your testosterone levels. And we know that testosterone, I can't talk. Testosterone is actually the hormone that plays a role in sexual desire. It plays a major role in sexual desire. Those healthy testosterone levels are correlated also with elevated mood and energy. So it all starts to add up for better intimacy. So abstaining, again, is actually not counterproductive. It actually is productive because, again, you're increasing that sexual tension. And when it actually is time for your sex detox to be done, you are ready. You are so ready to go. All right. So we're going to get into some more benefits about doing a sex detox. I wanted you to understand what it is and understand what it's not. It's not that we're completely moving all forms of affection. Okay. It's not that. And it also has to be a mutual agreement between you and your spouse. Okay. I want to be very, very clear with that. But I'm going to give you some more benefits. All right. So the main thing, and I kind of touched on this, is you want to remove any negative patterns that are there. So what happens a lot of times is, especially if we've been having sex before we got married, right? Sometimes we have certain patterns, or we have certain practices or behaviors or whatever that we did with a previous partner that we want to bring into our marriage. And your spouse may not be okay with whatever that thing is or things are that you're trying to bring into your marital bed. So sometimes if there are some again, some acts, certain expectations that you have that began with the previous partner, and you try to bring that into the bedroom and your spouse is not okay with it, that can create an issue. And they may go along with it because they're trying to please you and they're trying to make you happy. But ultimately, what begins to build is a lack of comfort, a lack of security. It can also lead to some anger, some bitterness, some resentment, because, like, why do you want me to do this? It could be judgment. It can make them feel as if they're not enough, or that whatever it is that they're willing to do is not sufficient for you. It can make them feel as if you're not satisfied. And then it can then get in their mind that you may seek whatever this thing is elsewhere if I'm not willing to give it to you, or you're not willing to give it to me. I may be thinking that I'm missing out on something. And then what happens if we feel like we're missing out on something? We go looking for other places. Sometimes, not always. So if you have some negative patterns in your relationship that you haven't been able to address and deal with, a sex detox may be a good thing for you. I'm not saying this is for everybody. I'm not saying that everybody has to do it, but it may be something to discuss with your spouse if you have some negative patterns in your sex life that you may want to address and deal with and adjust. Okay, so maybe it's by way of sex detox. um I've been with couples who have expressed, maybe one partner felt like all my spouse wants from me is sex. They don't care about anything else. They don't want to be intimate. They don't want to connect on an emotional level or a mental level or a spiritual level, all they want is sex. So if you have a spouse that feels that way, maybe doing a sex detox is a good thing. Why? Because you're proving to them that it's not all about that. And I am willing to connect with you in other ways beyond sex. That works wonders for your relationship because it gives your spouse that validation, confirmation, security that that's not all you're there for, that you care more about just sex. Okay? So again, you do a sex detox if you want to remove some negative patterns. All right. So that's one of the benefits. Second benefit is reducing anxiety. So I've talked about this before in another show where sometimes, there's this pressure to have sex. Sometimes there's an inordinate amount of emphasis on having a perfect sexual encounter every time. That is not realistic. That's not realistic, especially if one person, one of the spouses has some type of sexual problems, or if there's desire discrepancy. And we've talked about that before. So for those of you who are not familiar with desire discrepancy, it's basically one has a higher libido than the other person in a relationship. So one craves it, wants it, desires it more than the other person. And so there can be pressure there to perform, and it creates a lot of anxiety. And so sometimes having a sex detox is the way to go about dealing with reducing that level of anxiety and that pressure to have sex. Okay, so again, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that this is what everybody needs to do. You have to decide what is best for your relationship. This is just one way to address some of the issues and concerns that may exist in your sex life. All right. Okay, so another benefit of doing a sex detox is to get the spark back. Maybe the fire has burned out. Maybe you've been together so long and you haven't really explored anything new or different, and it's becoming mundane and predictable and redundant. So, experts say that if you create this gap, right, it increases longing for each other and it actually helps to reignite the passion. There's a book called Sex Detox by Ian Kerner. And he basically talks about how we tend to get so into or involved with the person that the only thing that prevents things from getting boring is to start fresh, almost like a clean slate. And so that's what a sex detox can actually do. All right. It actually can help to get the spark back. Because remember, we're talking about the buildup of sexual tension when you detox, when you refrain, or when you abstain. Okay. All right. So the next benefit, the ability to meet emotional needs. So what happens is when you take sex off the table, it definitely can give couples ample time to explore each other's emotional needs. So maybe there had been some emotional issues that were creating problems in the relationship. If you take a break from physical intimacy, it actually can help each other, help you guys to reassess your emotional needs and communicate those needs to your partner. Now, can you do this simultaneously? Yes, you can. But sometimes, again, the focus and the emphasis is so much on sex, and the energy that we're putting into sex is so great that we're not leaving energy, space, time, and opportunity to deal with our emotional issues that are going on in the relationship. So when you take sex off the table, again, that creates space and opportunity for one, your judgment not to be clouded, for your mind to be clear, and also for you to put that energy into meeting emotional needs. Many times, sex is not good with couples because their emotional needs are not being met. And sometimes, we're not having sex for the right reason, especially post infidelity. There are many times where we're having sex because it's fear. If I don't do it, you're going to cheat again. If I don't do sex the way you want to do it as often as you want to do it, then, you're going to go find somebody else who will give you what it is that you need. And we're even taught that. as women, we're taught that a lot of times growing up, that if we don't satisfy our husbands, if we don't meet their sexual needs, even at our own expense, right? At the expense of our own satisfaction and pleasure, that he'll find somebody else to do it. So we're taught that. So it is a shifting of the mindset and a reframing, right? That has to be done, because sex should always be mutually beneficial, mutually pleasurable for both parties. That is the truth. And so if our emotional needs are not being met, it will affect your sex life. May not be in the beginning initially, but over time, if you do not meet those emotional needs, you're not going to have that type of explosive sex in the bedroom that I know you all want and desire to have. Okay. So, again, not saying this is what you got to do, but it's a consideration, right? I'm always giving you strategies, tips, and opportunities to increase and improve your sex life. And so it's up to you what you choose to do in your relationship. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and then I'll come back and I'll give you the rest of the tips and everything with how to improve your sexual health. All right. Thank you guys for sticking in here once you found out that we're talking about sex detox. For sure. I appreciate that. But more to come. All right. You're watching SOS. And like I said, hang in here, drop your questions if you have any. Okay, do it. All right, guys, we're back. I saw a comment from JG. Hey, JG. JG says, after having a procedure done, I'm feeling comfortable with not having sex, even if I'm ready. It got me thinking, I do feel pressure to have good sex. And yes, my emotional needs are not being met after my husband's affair. Again, thank you for sharing that, JG. And you're not the only one that, feels that way post infidelity, be it the husband or the wife that's been unfaithful. It is difficult to transition back into sex after betrayal. And all the more reason why the emotional needs need to be met, because many times the infidelity has occurred anyway because of a lack of emotional needs being met. And so that's definitely something that every couple needs to explore and make sure, like, you almost gotta have sex on the list of priorities. Sex needs to be number 4. Okay. And 1, 2, and 3 are your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual needs. Right. And sex is number 4, because I've said this to you guys before. 1, 2, and 3 affect number 4. If there's a deficit in any one of those other areas, it's going to affect your sex life in a negative way. Okay. So you got to deal with those other issues, and then the rest will follow. Like, the sex will improve. It will be better if we deal with all the other stuff that we are avoiding dealing with. So do it. Do it, do it, do it. Again, thank you, Jay, for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Makes sense. Everything that you're saying. Um, and that pressure also is a major, like, buzz kill. It's also a libido kill, right? And it really can turn you off and turn you against your partner if you're feeling pressured. So again, that's definitely something to be discussed and a conversation to be had with your spouse. Alrighty, guys. So if you're going to do a sex detox, first of all, you do not make that decision by yourself. I have said multiple times, it needs to be mutually agreed upon with your spouse. You don't just watch my show and then go home or go to your spouse and say, we doing a sex detox. No, you have to have a conversation and an agreement with your spouse to do this. You don't just make this decision by yourself. Remember, Bible say your body ain't yours, right? His body don't belong to him, it belong to you. And your body don't belong to you, it belong to him. So you got to have a conversation, okay? All right. So, but if you're going to do it, the first thing you want to do is you want to define the toxins. What are the toxins? What's going on? Is it, we're talking about most times with detox is that there's some type of addiction, or there's some unhealthy behavior, or some unhealthy substance, or toxin, whatever the case may be. So what is the toxin? Is it porn? Is it masturbation? Is it we are so focused on intercourse that we're neglecting all of our other needs, our emotional needs, and other things that we need to do, right? So sometimes there is a such thing as too much sex. And what I mean by that is, if you are neglecting the children, you can't go to work, y'all not paying bills because you just in there just humping like rabbits, that's too much, because you don't have your priorities in order and you're not handling your business. Okay. So that's what I mean when I say too much, because it's not prioritized, right? Everything has to be decent and in order, and it has to be prioritized. So anyway, define the toxin, whatever it is, right? And then that's what you're going to go after. Like I said, if it's maybe you guys decide that you want to abstain from intercourse. Like that's the most common thing, but you may still want to engage in foreplay. And again, you still have physical touch, you still have kissing, hugging, whatever. You guys define what the toxin is, and then contingent upon what the toxin is, that helps you decide what it is that you need to actually detox from. Okay. So that's the first thing, define the toxin. Second thing is, how long are we detoxing? Because we got to have a destination in mind, especially for the high libido person in the relationship. They need an end game, like, because we can't just say we detoxing until like whenever, to infinity and beyond. Like, no, we need a date. So the average, I will tell you, is 30 days. That is the average, 30 days. But you decide as a couple what it is. If you decide to go this route, how long is the detox going to be? All right. Mutually agree on what that looks like. And then you want to define the replacement behavior. So let's say, again, I'm just using intercourse. If we decide that we're going to fast from intercourse, okay, so what's going to be the replacement behavior? What are we going to be doing? Because we've been having sex and we just stopping cold turkey, and the body is going to respond and crave one another potentially. So what are we going to do when that happens? Again, are we going to just go into foreplay? Are we going to play a game? Are we going to exercise? Are we going to watch a movie? Are we going to give each other massages? What are we going to do as a replacement behavior? So you need to define that as well. You don't define that in the moment. You define that before you start your detox to make sure you're on the same page with that. Okay? And then, I want to say to you guys again, if you do decide to do this, be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself, because especially if you've never done any type of detox before, it's hard. Like, it's really, really hard, because your body is going to want to do what it's always done, and you're trying to break a habit or cycle or pattern or whatever the case may be, and it's difficult. And so the reason why I think, experts will say 30 days is because you've heard that it takes 21 days for something to become a habit. So you need to go over those 21 days, you go 30 days, and then you're really having some breakthrough and some change. So last but not least, as I said, if you slip up, be kind to yourself, be compassionate to yourself, be patient with yourself and with your spouse, because it's not easy. It's very, very difficult. And if you slip up, hey, we slipped up and we're just going to get back on it, right? Because none of us are perfect and we all make mistakes. So I don't want you to beat yourself up again if you happen to slip up. But don't go, well, we slipped up. Oh, well, let's just go back. No. Get back on the wagon. Okay, on the hypothetical wagon, get back on it. All right. So you guys, I don't see any questions. I see you did put some comments in here, and I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate you guys watching and tuning in. And again, this does not have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be hard. It's really about you guys having conversations, getting into alignment, having those crucial conversations with each other, being open and honest and transparent about where you are and what it is that you need and what you desire out of your relationship in every shape and form, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. All right. So have the conversations, have the talks that you need to have with your spouse, and be willing to listen. Don't be so quick to be offended. Don't be so quick to judge, because this is a very difficult conversation to broach, especially if you've been married for a significant amount of time. You've been having sex, and then one of you come home talking about, we not trying to have sex. Like, that's gonna be an issue. Okay, so that is a very difficult conversation to broach. And so be patient with your spouse, be kind with your spouse, if they do decide that that's the route that they want to take. All right. So I love you guys. Have a good night. Thank you again for watching. And hey, let me see you next week now. I want to see you have yourself in place, 9 p.m. watching SOS. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. Bye.